Elections are part of democracy. Communication and public participation are a very important part of the democratic process. But what does it mean, democratic process, nowadays? What does it mean, freedom of speech? What does it mean, media independence, reliable contact? What does it mean today? 10 years ago, we would advise people, read reliable media, use critical thinking, or at least common sense. But common sense is not so common these days. We can't even trust our eyes. We can't even be sure that the voice on the phone is actually a human we know, or AI generated. According to Eurobarometer survey conducted in spring 2024, 71% of Europeans say they often come across disinformation, and 86% of Europeans agree that the rapid spread of disinformation is a major problem for democracy. The Digital News Report 2024 found that 64% of the Irish public is concerned about what is real and what is fake on the internet, compared to 50% in the rest of Europe. And we are not talking about people with low levels of education or poor digital skills. We actually are talking about ourselves. Today's webinar is dedicated to joining forces to fight for democracy. And the title of our webinar is Combating Disinformation, Strategies, Threats, and the Role of AI. You know, I asked recently AI, how to use AI to fight the disinformation. And believe you or not, but the answer was AI can be a powerful tool in the fight against disinformation. So I'm very happy that AI also agreed with this message. And AI can be used for good purposes. In particular, AI algorithms can help identify and remove false information from social media platforms by analyzing patterns, language, and context. Secondly, AI can assist in fact-checking by quickly cross-referencing information with reliable sources. Third, AI can be used to detecting deepfakes, manipulated videos or images that can spread disinformation. Fourth, AI tools can educate users on how to spot disinformation and improve their media literacy. Fifth, AI can monitor online content and send automated alerts to users or moderators when potential disinformation is detected, allowing for quicker responses. And six, it's last but not least, AI can help journalists by providing tools to analyze large data sets, identify trends, and uncover hidden connections, making it easier to investigate and report on disinformation campaigns. Dear all, I am actually very proud that the international team of the research project AI4Debunk is working hard on making AI even more efficient and user-friendly. It goes without saying that we highly appreciate the European Commission support. The European Commission is actively monitoring EU policy areas which could be targeted by disinformation actors. It is an area in which President Ursula von der Leyen has set out an important role for Ireland's Commissioner for Democracy, Justice and the Rule of Law, Mr. Michael McGrath. It's my pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Simona Constantin, Member of Cabinet of Commissioner Michael McGrath.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Well, thank you first of all for, you and all the colleagues on the ground working on such important matters. And I'm happy to see that you are rolling out all this work because it's super important. It's important for our daily lives because at the end, it can lead to impacting our democratic systems, our elections, what we know about, the foundations of the EU. I think, the timing of your seminar, it's quite, fitting. If we look around what is happening, at global level, Yesterday, we have just had the instauration in the United States of a new president. We have also picked up, not just from yesterday, but in recent days, maybe some trends or dynamics there when it comes, for example, to free speech, to disinformation. But not just, outside the EU. We have seen inside the EU the impact of our information space on citizens' decisions. I'm sure you are all aware of the situation with the presidential elections in Romania, for example, where, it was quite breaking. It's quite probably a first that we have seen the annulment of the elections. Of course, there are many reasons behind, but the issue of disinformation, has been an important one. So everything that we together we will do in Europe in this area will be of crucial importance. The challenges to our democratic systems, I expect them to get even bigger, be it from internal threats or outside threats. So I think throughout this mandate of the Commission, which has also just started 1 month ago, we will see a very increase of the need to work to look at our frameworks. I think the good news in a way is that we already have quite a comprehensive framework set in place when it comes to the EU. If you think about the AI Act, if you think about the Digital Services Act, if you think about the European Media Freedom Regulation, the political ads regulation, which should start to apply later this year, we should be well equipped to basically ensure that the information space we have in Europe provides people with accurate information, also with pluralistic views, because as you also mentioned in your introduction, Europeans, they do want reliable information, and they do find, increased levels of what they perceive to be misinformation, disinformation. There is already a lot of ongoing work in the Commission when it comes to disinformation. I know there are also worries out there among stakeholders, especially from the fact checkers' point of view, asking themselves, well, will we still be relevant as, as an actor in fighting disinformation? And I'm convinced there is and there will be a strong role for fact checkers. Of course, under the Digital Services Act, it's not prescriptive. It doesn't say which method to use, but you have to use effective methods in fighting disinformation, and the Commission is closely monitoring this. But I think our fact checkers and their role, it's bigger. It goes beyond, the role of the Digital Services Act. You know that there is also the priority to step up to strengthen the European network of fact checkers. You are probably aware we have the European Digital Media Observatory with hubs, and it will be interesting to look at their role, but beyond. Very important the work you do in AI and the role on disinformation, and I will be very interested to follow up on the discussions which you will have today and the conclusions from the seminar. I will maybe just try to wrap up my intervention by referring a bit to the work which we will roll out on the European Democracy Shield, because this will be a cross-cutting project. The work will be led by Commissioner McGrath, but in cooperation and with input from many others across the Commission. And we want to prepare the European Democracy Shield in an inclusive way also with stakeholders. So there will be a space, for consultation, for public consultation, for hearing the views, from practitioners, those who worked on the ground, to the other institutions, also to the member states. I think we will need the support, the ideas of everyone, but also the buy-in. as part of the European Democracy Shield, what we do further on fighting disinformation will be one aspect. Of course, we will also need to look at foreign interference. We will need to look at the role of media literacy, which is quite key if you want to be effective also in terms of scrutinizing the information space. We will need to look at capacity building, because maybe we do have good frameworks in place, but are we equipped with the human resources, with the, let's say, technical support to ensure that they are effectively implemented? I think it will be important to also look at whether we are equipped or coordinated well enough when it comes to crisis situations. If you have elections being torpedoed, I think it would help if there is a clear demarcation of roles, who does what, and how we work together from the EU level and national level. Therefore, I think your work will absolutely be very important. I hope you will actively contribute to the development of the European Democracy Shield with ideas, especially from your project and practice. And I hope you will also convey, to your partners, to the national authorities you will interact with, the need to work together. I think there's a role for everybody, and in Europe we cannot manage unless we drive towards the same values. And we do have our European approach of democracy, of the information space. I'm confident and that we will work closely, and that at the end we will manage to safeguard these fundamental values for our Europeans. Thank you very much, and as I said, I look forward to see also the conclusions from your seminar today.
Dear Simona, many thanks for your time, for your words. We indeed working together, as you said, 8 countries and 13 partners from around Europe, and we very much hope to finish our project with sound and useful results. And it is my pleasure now to pass the floor to Dr. Zanda Kalniņa-Lukaševica. She is Vice Speaker of Latvian Parliament. And I would just like to say that a year ago, the Latvian Parliament, and in particular, Dr. Zanda Kalniņa-Lukaševica, blessed our project inside the Parliament. And Zanda is also closely monitoring what we are doing. It's very important to provide very sound and effective results to policymakers and to politicians. So, Zanda, the floor is yours.
Professor Steinbuka, dear Ina, thank you so much. And indeed, it's an absolute honor and privilege to be among a group of such a distinguished panelists and speakers. So, dear participants, imagine this. It is an election night in a small but proud democracy. So the polls are closing and citizens are eagerly watching the results unfold. But behind the scenes, something sinister is at play. Social media is buzzing with news that the elections are rigged. Stories of ballot tampering flood the internet. At the same time, a cyber attack disables part of the Election Commission's website, and for a moment, completely different provisional percentages appear on the web page. It all sows serious doubt in public about the credibility of the results, and many conspiracy theories are played out. But now, picture the scenario repeated across nations. So public trust in democratic processes decreases, even if the results in election process can be verified afterwards. The battlefield is no longer confined to borders. It is global, covert, and increasingly digital. So let me say, welcome to the era of disinformation, foreign interference, and artificial intelligence. Yes, there are hidden and not so hidden threats to democracies. So foreign interference, by its very nature, is a shadow adversary. Unlike conventional aggression, it sneaks into the heart of democratic societies unnoticed, destabilizing them from within. So recent studies show that 8 in 10 Europeans believe foreign interference is a serious problem, and they are right. And that's why we also underline these numbers several times. So this threat doesn't just influence opinions, it has the power to shape elections, politics, and even the way citizens perceive reality. So let's not underestimate the tools of this new warfare. Artificial intelligence, the marvel of modern technology, is indeed also being weaponized. So foreign states and rouge groups exploit AI to craft hyper-personalized propaganda, conduct disinformation campaigns, and manipulate voter sentiment. In this war, AI isn't just a weapon, it is an enabler of strategic adaptation, allowing the actors to exploit the unique vulnerabilities of each region, each society. So take Russia's doppelganger operation, for example. So websites were created to mimic trusted news outlets, publishing false stories that seemed authentic. Social media, but powered by AI, amplified these narratives, spreading chaos faster than ever before. And this isn't science fiction. It is a documented reality recently. Meta also recently identified Russia, Iran, and China as leading sources of foreign interference since 2017. So it's not completely new phenomenon. So their tactics aren't just disruptive. They aim to erode trust in democratic institutions as such. They aim to polarize societies and weaken our collective ability to respond to global challenges. Yes, recently many countries have been targeted. Romania, as already mentioned, also Moldova, previously also Spain, and many others. There have been attempts even to interfere in the US election processes. And as I am working right now on the report, Foreign Interference, a Threat to Democratic Security in Europe, under the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, let me briefly mention 3 very crucial pillars of destabilization. So foreign interference often attacks through a combination of these tactics. First, disinformation, undermining public trust in governments, media, and even facts. Secondly, cyber attacks, stealing sensitive data and using it to support divisive narratives. And thirdly, financial and political interference, eroding the integrity of institutions and fostering cynicism among citizens. And then, when used together, these strategies have a compound effect, targeting the very foundations of our democratic society. Therefore, I would say that the role of the AI is as a double-edged sword. Artificial intelligence not only is a tool of subversion, it is also a weapon for defense. So to counter these threats, we must develop AI systems capable of detecting and verifying disinformation in real time. AI can analyze vast amounts of data, identify patterns of manipulation, and expose malicious actors before they succeed in destabilizing societies. But, dear friends, this is a race. Nations worldwide are competing to develop cutting-edge technologies, not just to protect themselves, but to gain strategic advantages. On a good side, Latvia, for example, is stepping up to this challenge by launching a national AI center. So the plan is that our universities, private companies, and state institutions will collaborate to explore AI's potential, not only to improve daily lives, but to act as a shield against attacks on our democracy. The same aim, I believe, is at the heart of this AI4Debunk project. So the resilience of our democracies depends on our ability to detect, counter, and adapt. Technology will not save us on its own. We must combine innovation with vigilance, cooperation, and commitment to the values that define us as democratic societies. And I believe it starts with education, it starts with knowledge. So citizens must learn or acquire an habit to question what they see online and be capable to make their own mind depending on verified information they can access. At the same time, governments indeed must invest in technologies that expose disinformation and strengthen cybersecurity. And most importantly for me, democracies must unite. In the face of these threats, no nation can stand alone. So, dear colleagues, as I conclude, two more things. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, all panelists that will talk during this webinar. And yes, once again, my dear friend, Professor Inna Steinbucke, and of course, the whole AI4Debunk team for such an excellent, passionate work of such a high topicality. And dear friends, for a moment, let me take you back to the election night I described earlier. Imagine this time that disinformation campaigns are swiftly debunked, the cyber attacks are prevented, and citizens cast their vote with confidence, knowing their democracy is protected. So this vision shouldn't be a dream. Actually, it is a future depending on our actions within or beyond our reach. And with the help of these kind of projects, and this project including specifically, it is the future and reality. So the stakes are high, but so is our resolve, together with innovation, cooperation, and unwavering belief in democracy. We can defend against foreign interference and disinformation, and we can ensure that democracy not only survives, but actually thrives also in the age of the AI. So let's use this occasion to strengthen our resolve and defense, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zanda. I must say that when I'm trying to imagine the next election, it comes to my mind Latvia next municipal election. And I very much hope that what you said in the end of your keynote speech will be not a dream, but a reality, that we will be able to vote without a lot of foreign interference and manipulation of information and things like that. Thank you very much again, Zanda, for your very inspiring speech. And I hope that you will also in the future monitor our project and remain our godmother. And now we are coming to our main part of the webinar, the first panel discussion, Disinformation, the secret killer of democracy. And I will now give the floor to the moderator of this first panel, Sigita. Sigita Struberga, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Steinbucke, for introductions. And indeed, it is my pleasure to moderate this discussion, taking in consideration that, as it was underlined already twice today or even more, that this is one of the most pressing issues of our time. The ways and means how disinformation undermines democratic systems, polarizes societies, and erodes trust in institutions, taking in consideration that indeed our adversaries see democracies and our political systems just as another battlefield where they fight against us, our systems. And our session today will explore disinformation from multiple perspectives, highlighting its threats, the strategies to counter it, and the role of technology and innovation in shaping the future of information integrity. And we have incredible panel of experts with us. And that's why I will not steal your time anymore. We have very limited time. We will start with Georgi Gotev from Euractiv, Bulgaria, who will share his perspective on disinformation as a threat to democracy as introduction. Then next will be Karina Polishuk from Interviews Ukraine. She will highlight how TikTok algorithms work versus Telegram in Ukraine. So we will have very practical perspective in here. And then Jan Krag from Innovative Power will delve into the role of social media and digital platforms, discussing how AI can help mitigate disinformation and build trust in media. And finally, but not least, Professor Žaneta Ozoliņa from University of Latvia will provide a forward-looking perspective addressing the critical question, quo vadis? Where we go with all that. And after hearing from our speakers, we will move into around 10 minutes Q&A session. And let's see how many questions we will be able to pick up. I hope we will be effective. And then I will finalize with very short summary. But now I would like to invite Georgi take over.
Thank you, Sigita. This conference comes at a key moment. I would like to kickstart the panel discussion by quoting US President Joe Biden, who said a few days ago while he was still in office, he said, Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling, editors are disappearing, social media is giving up on fact-checking. Then we saw Mark Zuckerberg standing next to Donald Trump during his inauguration. We will soon find out what the future holds with Trump. He's a politician who has little respect for truth. And the effects for Europe will soon be felt because social media such as Facebook until now used to support fact-checking, but this seems to be no longer the case. Biden also said the free press is crumbling, editors are disappearing. Being an editor myself, I can confirm how difficult the life of media is under multiple aspects. When it comes to disinformation, during the COVID crisis, we identified that most of the fake narratives actually came from the United States, from circles known as QAnon, before being taken by multiplicators in Russia and Eastern and Western Europe. Further, in the context of the Russian aggression against Ukraine, we are faced with the industry of disinformation, which is clearly under the command of the Kremlin. Bulgaria, where my colleagues work, is very vulnerable to Russian propaganda and fake news in general. This is due to the insufficient control of the country's authorities over what are considered malicious efforts of state and non-state actors to destabilize the country by influencing the public opinion. In addition, the sources of fake news in Bulgaria are often the politicians themselves. Sometimes Bulgarian scientists or so-called experts or commentators. Unfortunately, even the mainstream media just quote the politician and experts without questioning their statements. As part of the AI4Debunk project, Euractiv Bulgaria has analyzed a few hundreds of fake news published mostly by Bulgarian websites by evaluating them under various aspects for the needs of machine learning. The goal, of course, is to develop a user-friendly AI-powered tool to prevent, deter, and respond to disinformation. Our research has made it possible to identify websites that churn disinformation and fake news on a daily basis. Most of them indicate no ownership, no editorial team, no address, except an email for contacts with advertisers. Often the articles we analyze amalgamate real quotes against fabricated content, for example, quoting a foreign prime minister from years ago without saying that he's no longer a minister, out of context. But this works. Many of the articles analyzed are about climate change, and one of the narratives is that the European Union is committing suicide with the Green Deal, that we will be soon all be eating insects, that food and electricity will be rationed, and so on. I can speak for hours, but I prefer to return to the topic during the Q&A discussion. But you got the trust of my presentation.
Thanks a lot. And now I would like to invite Karina to tell a bit more about situation in Ukraine and from perspective on looking into particular social media platforms.
Thank you. I want to discuss how Russia weaponizes social media for disinformation, particularly targeting Ukraine, and share our strategies to combat this threat. So problem we face, evolution of Russian tactics, shift from crude propaganda to sophisticated multi-platform narratives, integration also of an AI-generated content and deepfakes. And Russia tailors content for specific groups using deepfakes and fake experts. Let me start with a striking statistic. 73% of Ukrainians use Telegram as a primary information source, while TikTok's user base is rapidly expanding, now reaching audience over 55 years old. Why TikTok and Telegram? TikTok prioritizes virality, while Telegram thrives on a lack of content filtration. The threat is evolving. Russian link accounts thrive on both platforms, despite fewer state link accounts on TikTok. Engagement is much higher than on Telegram. So Telegram has become a hub of mass information dissemination with minimal moderation and a lack of end-to-end encryption. What about TikTok? It has a unique algorithm that focuses on user behavior rather than the connection between them. And clip syncing, fast dopamine, creating an information bubble. That is what sets TikTok apart from other platforms. Russian disinformation focuses on the most sensitive issue for society, such as corruption, the energy crisis, and so on. For example, in June 2024, one of our hashtags related to mobilization in Ukraine reached 470 million views, becoming a tool to undermine Ukrainians' mobilization efforts. So we tackle these threats through a three-level approach, like state, civil society, and international cooperation. We are seeing progress. TikTok has increased its moderation efforts and cooperation with Ukrainian authority in 2024. On Telegram, we launched initiatives like the Fake Bomb Bot, which promotes media literacy, and our regional Galka project, Media Quizzes, have engaged nearly 700 participation, showing that people are choosing educational content over endless scrolling. And to sum up, we conclude that among effective countermeasures like pre-bunking, real-time monitoring, and so on, fact-checkers, for example, journalists, public-private partnership in detection and mitigation, we also have establishment of the Center for Countering Disinformation, collaboration also between government agencies, facilitating cross-posting between Ukrainian and international media. And this is just about defense. It's about building societal resilience. And our exploration in Ukraine showed that success requires a combination of technological solutions, human expertises, and community engagement. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for very concrete speech with in very concrete timing. And now I would like to invite Jan to share his perspective
Thank you, Sigita. Disinformation is not just a nuisance, it's a calculated weapon that undermines democratic processes, manipulates public opinion, and erodes trust in institutions. But what concerns me most is the long-term impact it has on young people, the very future of our democracies. Disinformation spreads faster than the truth, preying on the digital habits of our youth. Social media platforms, where young people spend much of their time, are prime breeding grounds for false narratives. This doesn't just confuse, it creates cynicism. When young people are exposed to conflicting information and manipulated stories, they begin to doubt everything: institutions, science, and even the value of democracy itself. If left unchecked, disinformation risks fostering a generation that is disengaged, distrustful, and susceptible to manipulation. These are not just personal consequences, these are societal ones. A democracy cannot function without informed citizens. As I'm deeply committed to empowering young people, and I see education as our most powerful defense. But this isn't about simply adding another subject to the curriculum. It's about integrating media literacy seamlessly across all levels of education. Students must learn to question what they see online, to verify sources, and to understand the motivations behind the information they consume. AI4Debunk, we are developing tools that make this process more intuitive, equipping young people and all citizens with the skills to detect and challenge disinformation effectively. But it is not just about tools. Teachers and schools must be supported in embedding these lessons into everyday learning. This requires collaboration between educators, policymakers, and technology experts to create a future-ready education system which enables youngsters to use AI tools on a responsible way and to understand the threats of disinformation. Imagine a future where young people grow up with the skills and confidence to navigate the digital world responsibly. They become not just consumers of information, but critical thinkers and defenders of democracy. This isn't just a dream, it's a necessity. The fight against disinformation is urgent and collective. AI4Debunk is just one part of the solution, but we need governments, schools, and communities to prioritize this issue. Together, we can ensure that today's youth are prepared to face the challenges of tomorrow and uphold the values of democracy for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Again, you are very disciplined. Thank you. And what we see is quite gloomy picture, actually. On another hand, we heard already about some solutions. But I have a question to you, Janetta. Does the picture look same gloomy in the future for you?
Thank you, Sigita. Actually, picture in the past seems gloomy to me because when I read the title of our today's discussion, whether AI is the secret killer of democracy, then my answer was that actually we ourselves here in Europe, to a very large extent, are also responsible for secret weapon which is killing democracy. Because what we were debating today, it's not just the consequence of the presence of artificial intelligence or the result of the spread of disinformation. It's very much is because of our own inability to react to those societal changes, technological changes, geopolitical changes, which were actually taking place in the past, but today we are bearing the fruit of our ignorance and not being serious about what was happening then. So therefore, when you were asking me what about prospects in the future, and again, I wanted, as a member of this project, I asked a question to artificial intelligence, how artificial intelligence sees its own future. And actually, the answer was very optimistic. So there were more than 10
points that actually the world will be nice and beautiful and will be blossoming because of the potential of artificial intelligence. But then I'll ask a question, what are the negative consequences of spread of artificial intelligence? And there were mentioned different consequences except one, sufferings from the value of democracy. Actually, democracy was not part of artificial intelligence language. So it means that, at least from our project's perspective, we have to treat artificial intelligence as one of very important debunking tools. But then there are very many other important areas which have to be covered, explored, not of course only by our project because the area is too wide. But I would mention just a few ones. So the first trouble in the future, it is the huge gap which exists between political elite and societies. And it's not just because political elite is too arrogant and is not looking at society. The problem is that society is going through diverse transformations. And those transformations are ignored by political elite. And when we are wondering about the results of the elections, it's not because somebody interfered in elections. In very many cases, yes, interference was there, it was fixed, but to a very large extent, it's because political elite didn't react to needs of societies and those changing needs of societies. Another point which I completely would put probably on the top of 5 priorities, what has to be done in the future, we have to follow very carefully what is happening with authoritarian regimes. It's not only us in the West, in the Western culture, who are analyzing potential of artificial intelligence, but also negative consequences. So the same is done on the side of authoritarian regimes. And they are also smart, they are effective, they are very mobile, and they can be very easy to use artificial intelligence for their own purposes. Another point which I wanted to mention, we have to look in the future at very carefully. And Sigita already mentioned that at the very beginning. It's a loss of trust in institutions and also traditional media. People do not trust institutions which are producing and safeguarding democracy, and they don't trust in traditional media as well. So therefore, this traditional world we used to live in actually is falling apart. And we are not quite sure what's going to happen in the future and how this world will look in the future. So therefore, this institutional and media perspective should be monitored very carefully. And the last point which I wanted also to bring here for the discussion is that very often those policy solutions which we try to offer to policymakers and we try to innovate in policy realm, it's not based on analysis what society really is perceiving as threat, as relevant, how society is prioritizing different issues. And therefore, very well thought efforts, very well thought policy solutions, they do not reach the target group because the target group doesn't want to accept it. So therefore, wrapping up, what I wanted to say here is, let's keep an eye on both, on what is happening in the world of technology, but even more look at what is happening in the world of diverse societies, because societies are also very active participants, not only in debunking disinformation, but rebanking disinformation, which is very important. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Janeta. And now I see already several questions in chat, so if there is someone else who would like to ask, please write in chat. But the first person who wrote was Georgi. Georgi, I would like to at first to pass or rephrase Janeta's final sentence, and I would like to ask, do you see if politicians in Bulgaria or experts in Bulgaria really understand this target audiences?
Thank you for this question. Unfortunately, Bulgaria has been in a very long period without a stable government that has lasted almost 4 years. And during this time, nobody from the governing circles has paid attention to the problems that we discuss today. Fortunately, since the beginning of this week, I mean, we have a functioning government. Maybe things will change, but we are emerging from a very dark period. For example, the state regulator didn't really perform its duties, takes distance from disinformation by saying that we should hear all opinions. Everybody is entitled to have an opinion, so let's hear all opinions. This is why mainstream televisions often, for example, discuss COVID. They invite a professor and they invite a complete idiot, and they give them the equal time to discuss. Unfortunately, it's the idiot that impacts more on the audience, as we have seen. As a result, Bulgaria is the country in the European Union with the lowest level of vaccination.
And now maybe you could turn to your question you had to Karina.
Yes, I would like to ask Karina, because the situation in Bulgaria and Ukraine are different. It's not possible in Ukraine for a website to publish disinformation every day, as it is the case in Bulgaria. Such websites in Ukraine are banned. Authorities can shut them down. And this is why most of the disinformation in Ukraine is carried by social media. My question is, Karina, do you think that the decision to shut down website is the right decision given the circumstances, the difficult circumstances of your country?
Thank you for your question. Firstly, I would like to say that it's very important to work systematically, but I'm not sure that when we close this website, it will help, for example. But we now see situations in what about social media, for example, TikTok in the world, and I think that we need to discuss how to find another tools, not only to close, for example, websites. We need to find another tools like cooperation, how to work with this disinformation, like different, for example, like live events maybe, or combination like technological tools and human expertise, and we need to work on three different states, like civilian state and international. And I'm not sure that we need only to close this, and only this tool will help.
Thank you, Karina. Now, to follow up, I would like to unite my question with the one which is in the chat, and I will address it to Janeta. Janeta, Georgi gave a brilliant example on TV debate and how the space has been given to different persons to express their views. And this type of arguments, we also hear actually at the moment from social media owners that several opinions have a right to exist and to be expressed in social media. So what would be your opinion on social media regulation and censorship and social media? And from audience also, how to establish trust when these media channels are sponsored or have those interesting new views on censorship of the content provided by different actors.
It's a very complicated question, so I think I don't have time to expand on it. But I will a little bit ironize. So if it would be European perspective, then there will be more regulations. Yeah. And we see that regulation probably is the easiest way to address the issue, but it's not the best way to solve the issue. And the trouble is that in Europe, we are very good at initiating, but then forgetting that after regulations, there should be several policies which not regulate, but promote. Like, for instance, when I'm thinking about this Digital Act, which was very much welcomed by policy world, it was very critical from a business world, which said, sorry, but if there are so strict regulations, how we could proceed with innovations, which requires sometimes, not sometimes, but very often, risks, open thinking, something unexpected, and so on. And so this is the question also regarding disinformation and how to build trust. Trust will not be built with one more legal act or with one more regulatory framework. It's very important that we work simultaneously, and Europe is bad at that, simultaneously working in different directions. And that we also heard before, it's not only about, again, technologies or policy solutions. It's very important to establish, from my point of view, a network of interested bodies in this particular issue, which the network which is based on collaborative principles. Because within this project, we already carried out several interviews regarding how to tackle disinformation. And actually, almost all interviewed people, starting from policymakers and ending up with NGO representatives, they all mentioned that the weakest point at the present moment is a lack of collaboration, which is not only as established as a political will, but collaboration which is actually empowered by different concrete tools, venues, how we could ensure that it works almost on daily level. And then with those common type of frameworks, common approaches, it is possible to increase trust. But if I would mention one, the most important point is that's what I said at the beginning of my talk. We have to think differently about society. Society is drastically changing. And those efforts which we would like to apply in order to build trust, to debunk disinformation, they sometimes lag behind what is happening already within those societal structures. And another point which I wanted to mention before, but I forgot, as one of where to look in the future, also several interviewed respondents mentioned that word disinformation is to some extent old-fashioned. Because it actually derives away from what is the core of the problem. And the core of the problem is information integrity. And it means that we have to look again at ourselves, how to create information space, which is trustful, which is open. At the same time, there are certain limits what and how far you can go and do. And probably this is the way how we should at least change a little bit direction of how we approach this issue. And I agree that education, critical thinking, these are extremely important issues, but it is not a panacea. So therefore, this complex approach based on coordination would be one of the ways forward.
Thank you very much. You already managed to respond to one more question in chat, but I would like to ask Jan, since another question appeared in here, and partly you mentioned in your presentation related topics. So the question is, what is the future of fact-checking in world of recent news in the United States that generative AI and flooding of social media with bots, fake content is our new reality, possibly. And does social media makes sense at all today? And if not, what should be the alternatives?
I think it's most really most important that people, and from my point of view, I think it should be really good if we can start with youngsters, that they learn to question what they see online, that they learn to verify the source, that they learn to understand the motivations behind the information they consume. And we are all used at marketing. Everyone knows if you see a marketing ad, you probably know that it will not be the one and only truth. It will be the truth the organization wants you to know because they want you to buy. Disinformation on social media, they want to give you information so you have a mindset that they want to reach. And I think that you have to learn how to deal with that because it's a new world. For example, we were used at the journals on TV, and it wasn't always exactly the facts, but they are really professionals who are willing to give the facts to people at the old journals. But now on social media, everyone can give information. So you have to learn and to create tools how to deal with that, how you can recognize that it's not the one and only truth that they are giving to you. And I think that it's really important that you start young. It's not if you look at the case that from a marketing point of view, everyone knows start with youngsters because once you learn when you're young, you will remember it the rest of your life. I think that is also the case with disinformation, is how to learn youngsters to be critical at information. And that's one of the reasons that we at AI4Debunk, we give education such an important role. And we also want to develop various new forms of education, including education through an educational comic book and through a computer game. It's a total different way of learning, but if you want to attract people to learn something about how to deal with disinformation, you have to do it in an attractive way, just as marketeers also do.
Thank you very much. Georgi, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sigita. I think that the media, as such, we are able to regulate such issues between ourselves. In some countries, they do it very well. In some countries, less well. At Euractiv in Brussels, we are part of the Trust project. It's a journalistic project, which is a kind of label of quality. And at the same time, we publish sponsored content. Sponsored content and sponsorship is not a dirty word. That media need to have income from certain sources, but such content needs to be clearly indicated. And we also have a rule that a journalist who writes for a sponsored section does not report on the regular news. These are separate teams of professionals who work. Therefore, I think there is nothing wrong with having sponsored content. The problem is how to present it. Slowly, but we are getting there because readers are prefer to read media that are part of a project like the Trust Project. Information.
Would you agree with Georgi? Would you be the same optimistic that people prefer to choose fact-checked information?
I must say that not anyone is always working and looking at fact-check information. If you look at the shows on TV, it's all about a little bit gossip and a little bit show what they are creating. And yeah, that is the world we are living in. But that is, and the people who are watching it, they know it's amusement. And I think that it's really important that you have a difference between amusement. No, it's not real. And if you have a real, yeah, a newspaper or whatever who give information on a professional way, yeah, if you, and that is and you can buy it, for example, as a company, then you have that it is promotional and it's not a fact. So I think it would be really good if we have a system that gives a little flag of if someone is something is an ad or something is a fact or something is a show or whatever.
Jan, thank you very much for this important remark. And to sum up, I would like to just remember that combating disinformation requires not just innovative tools, including artificial intelligence, but also societal resilience and the commitment to safeguarding the truth, to safeguarding the democracy. And thank you to our panelists for your expertise, and to audience for so many questions which are continuing to appear. So panelists, please feel free to answer in chat to the questions which are being written down. And once more, thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to hear next panel.
Thank you very much, Sigita, and thank you very much for a very interesting panel. When we drafted this project, AI4Debunk, we had not realized how critical the moment would be in preserving information integrity and safeguarding democracy. So this panel really comes at the right moment. And AI has emerged as a transformative force in our world, capable of incredible facts, revolutionizing industries to solving complex problems. However, like any powerful tool, and it has been said this morning, it has two faces. It's a double sword. It's being exploited to create and amplify false narratives, from deep fakes to targeted misinformations, and it also holds the potential in detecting and countering these threats. As it has been said this morning by Ina, it has the power to shape elections, and it's being weaponized, artificial intelligence. And as Dr. Zanda has said, it's also a tool for subversion, as well as a weapon for defense. But now imagine a world where people would not understand that they are living in an AI world and would not understand that they are being manipulated by algorithms. This is why this second panel is also equally important. And we have like 3 very high-level experts in AI who are going to explain a little bit more how AI is working, because it's also important for society to understand how AI is working, to be able to have a better information integrity and media literacy. And it's also important, as Jana said, for the young people. So I'm pleased to introduce our 3 panelists. The first one is Kevin Eladad, who's a senior researcher at the University of Mons, and also head at Diabolocom, who's going to explain more about these 2 phases of AI. And the same rules apply for this panel. You can write your questions in the chat box, and you can also please keep to 3 to 4 minutes maximum. Thank you, Kevin.
Sure. Thank you, Pascaline. Hello, everyone. I'd like to start this panel by highlighting the different tools that AI represent in terms of disinformation propaganda, let's say. So everybody says AI contributes to disinformation. I just want to clarify what these tools are exactly and talk a bit about that. The first main tools that everybody probably have seen at least one example of are generative AI systems. So these systems are based on AI and are able to manipulate, generate, create new content of different types: audio, video, images, text, right? So basically the point of these tools is given very little as an input, they can create content that seem realistic enough for people to believe. You could control a famous politician's speech. You could generate a whole article within like 30 seconds of working on it. And these stuff are getting better and better as time goes on. Originally, there was a whole field of research that was able, to some extent, and they were doing it very well in detecting, and still are detecting these kind of data, the ones that are generated or fake, let's say, by AI. But as time goes on, the generative AI systems are becoming better and better. So there's a big question whether the counter systems that are supposed to detect these fake content will be good enough in the future. Can we keep up in the pace? That's still an open question. We don't know. But it is a personal opinion, if I can open a parenthesis here, that research should focus on top of just having a system where you put the data in and it should tell you it is disinformation or not, or it is fake or not. Having a side system that would focus on the context of the content rather than the content itself. I can give an example. You could have a scene and happening like explosions or whatever, something bad happening in a specific city. A caption saying that this is happening in such and such city. And the caption as well as the image could be so good that it could trick even another AI basically very easily. Instead of just focusing on the content, we could focus on, for example, the background. Does the background match the country that is mentioned in the caption? For example, let's say it says that it's happening in France. If the background has signs or whatever that are written in different language, that's an indication that it's probably not happening in France. Or if the buildings are recorded to be like 5 years old and they're mentioning it that it's happening now, it might be an information as well. That's what I mean by context. So that could be a good direction to take. Also, the generative AI are a first set of tools, of course, but there are other tools that are not maybe thought of by people that can be used to propagate these kind of disinformation. Sorry. And I'll give a few examples just to give an idea so that people are aware that these can help propagate and enable disinformation to be distributed. The first example is simple automatic translation systems. These facilitate easily the communication from one country to another. Another type of algorithm are the ones that help detect ideological trends, ideological profiles, socioeconomical backgrounds of people based on their track online, right? These don't create disinformation per se, but they help identify specific targets for these disinformation. So these all systems exist, and it's important for people to be aware that these exist so that they can take an informed decision whether a content is disinformation or not.
Thank you, Kevin. I think, yeah, you perfectly respect the time. That's fantastic. And it gives us good insights into these new technologies development, which are really important. Now I'm happy to give the floor to Marco Pirone, who's a research fellow at CNR Italy and also a digital storytelling expert with a teaching experience in language education. Marco?
Hello, everyone, and thank you to all the participants for joining us. Today, I will introduce some critical challenges and consideration in using AI to detect misinformation. So I will introduce some critical points today. First of all, let's address the first one. The AI system, while powerful, are not perfect. In fact, false positive can occur because system can label legit content as fake, and this can undermine trust and generate frustration among users. On the other hand, there are also false negatives where AI fails to flag sophisticated disinformation, creating an even greater risk. In these cases, it could be possible to evade detection, potentially amplifying the spread of harmful content. And for this reason, balancing precision and recall in the AI system can be a big challenge that requires careful collaboration, calibration, and continuous improvement. Then another point is related to bias in AI models. In particular, the training data used to develop these systems can contain bias. And these biases can be even intentional or unintentional, and they can come also from fact checkers. Also, although trained, for example, for English language data may struggle with misinformation in other languages. And in this case, addressing this requires separating trained datasets and ensuring that models are tested across a broad spectrum of real-world scenarios. And then a third important point can be about the escalation of adversarial tactics. In fact, because disinformation creators are not static and they adapt over time, AI tools can become better at identifying misinformation, as more sophisticated and complex methods can be developed to evade detection. And some examples in this direction can be deepfakes and language manipulation tools. And these tactics highlight the need for a system to constantly evolve and to stay ahead of bad actors in attempt to defend the main pillars of AI ethics, for example, are transparency and data protection. A last point, and I want to introduce here, is that we have to reflect on our dependence on technology, because our growing dependence on technologies can be dangerous. In fact, while AI can be powerful tools, over-reliance may reduce critical thinking. And in conclusion, while AI offers a great potential to find misinformation, it comes with significant challenges, technical limitation, ethical concerns, and social risk, for example. To deal with these complexities, we must adopt a holistic approach, improving the technology, addressing biases, and providing transparencies, and in the purpose of empowering people with the skills to think critically. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to discuss these topics during the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Marco, and thanks for respecting the time. Indeed, we need to question our reliance on technology, and that's exactly what Sigita said in the first panel. Look at also at the inside society, not only at the narratives on the new technologies are equally important. So this is a great transition. And now I'm happy to welcome Despina Elizabeth Filipidou, who's leads innovation and ERD at Dotsoft in Greece. And she's also specialized in technology to smart cities, tourism, healthcare, and combating disinformation. Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. Happy afternoon. Let me just share a very short presentation. Yes, so I will focus in a tool that we all use, actually, which is GPT. Now, first of all, what is a GPT? A GPT, or a generative pre-trained transformer, is an AI model based on deep learning and neural networks, specifically one that uses the transformer architecture. Now, this tool is trained on vast amounts of text data using unsupervised learning and self-attention mechanism, allowing it to generate human-like text. So GPTs use machine learning. But first of all, let's examine what is the transformer architecture. Now, if I ask GPT, specifically the OpenAI GPT, what is the transformer architecture? And in the role of an 11 years old elementary school girl. So the answer is that from GPT is that, okay, imagine you have a giant classroom where every student, and we can see a student like a word, is trying to talk at the same time. Normally in a classroom, the teacher goes one by one, listening to each student in order. And that's how older AI models like RNNs used to be. But the transformer model, what it does is that it's like a super teacher that can listen to all students. And other example is that it's like a super teacher or a detective that looks at all clues, or a team captain who organizes all the players together at the same time. So these are powerful tools. Now, before seeing the double role of GPTs, let's see about the issue about the 100 trillion parameters for AI. Now, what are these parameters and how do GPTs work? Now, imagine if we have, again, as an elementary school student, if we have a giant Lego castle that is made of 100 trillion tiny Lego bricks, and then each brick is a small part, of course, of the whole structure. Then we call these tiny bricks as parameters. What GPTs do is like they treat these tiny bricks as the brain cells, and the model, the AI model, gives one number actually to each of these bricks so that it can help the model understand the word within a context, within a sentence. So it's like the way humans, the human brain works. These mini brain cells are the cells, but the brain has neurons. So how does this work is that if, for example, we want ChatGPT to learn about subjects and to give us answers when we ask, first of all, we treat the robot, the GPT, because it is a robot, as something that knows nothing. What we do then, we give it millions and billions of books, of websites, of examples, and this is all the source data that feeds the robot. Now, for every word, the AI model adjusts tiny numbers, like we said, to these words, to these patterns. And of course, the more parameters exist, the better the information and the output. But what exactly is the output? Okay, the output of a GPT tool is not exactly a fact-based output. What GPTs do is not, because GPTs do not understand, because they do not think or create, but what they are good at, they compute and bet. So can we trust GPTs? Yes, for general knowledge, yes, for science, yes, for history, yes, for language, yes, for these more scientific or logical based, or even for programming issues. Yes, for creating ideas, for assistance, for when writing something, for summaries, for reviewing lots and lots of books at the same time. But for live news or legal advice or any other medical or more issues that need fact checking, then we can think of GPTs like hammers. They can be useful, of course, but they can help, but they can hurt. So two main solutions in order to technologically to work in a better way with AI models is that we need, especially with GPTs, is that we need to learn to use them with correct prompting. Prompting are those dialogues, the questions that we pose to GPTs. So we need, when we ask something to a tool, an AI model with GPT, we need to ask and try again and again and rephrase and go deeper into the information we receive so that we can better then evaluate and assess the input from which is the output actually from the GPT. And this project, of course, help us evaluate this part of this process, evaluate and assess the risk that the information we get is false or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. This is fantastic how you explain the GPTs and also their risks. I see there is no new questions for the moment, but I have one to our panelists. The first one was also asked this morning by Zanita, is how do you see the future of AI? And do you think it is the best solution to fight against disinformation and its spread?
Well, the thing is that I would actually, and like I think as another panelist said, that I would pose this question to GPT to see what is, as an assistant, to see where these things goes. I think, well, if again I specialize, if again I focus in AI models, especially GPTs, I think they can be very helpful. We can use them to structure information, to summarize information, to help scoring, but we need to work together with them. Like, it's very important to do very good prompting. For example, if you want to assess something about a book or a news, you need to ask, okay, or suggest some criteria, and then you would get the right information. So yes, they can be helpful, and I think if in my modest opinion, I think that in the future, the very operational tasks in everyday's life, but also at workplace. I come from a software company. Programming will be mostly AI model GPT-based driven, but the design of the product and the structure and the key elements will again need to be prompted from scientists, from people.
Thank you very much. Maybe Kevin, you mentioned generative AI. How do you see, these evolutions, and do you think there is a role for Europeans?
I think given the scale this information can be spread now, and the fact that it's using AI to do that, to achieve this scale, we will have to rely on AI as well to counter it somehow, at some extent. I think it would be a mistake to rely solely on an AI tool to decide for humans whether it's a disinformation or not. I think on the opposite, it should be a complementary tool that people use to decide by themselves whether it's the news is the content is disinformation or not. And in order to do this, people need to have the mentality of questioning things and having the reflex of double checking information before taking a decision. If they don't have this reflex, you can put, in my opinion, any type of tool, it will probably not be enough, right?
Yeah, but my thing is, we as Europeans, we are not leaders in the role of
No.
AI. So how do we make sure that these tools that are made to debunk disinformation are also shaped by European values, especially democracy?
It's true, we are not leaders. It doesn't mean we do not have the potential to be ones at some point. The main problem I see is that now innovation is driven mainly by big corporations. Corporations of the scale of which we hardly have any competitor in Europe. That's the main challenge. I don't have an answer to your question, unfortunately. I just know that we have the potential because we have the funding, we have the scientists, the know-how. We have the resources. I just don't know how to put everything together so that it works.
Yes, thank you very much. I see we have questions from the audience. Maybe Marco, you can try to answer them. One of them is, how important is the transparency of the AI output and the user interface to the final goal of trust? Basically, is the user interface as crucial as the AI tools behind it?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think that an important point in this direction is, for example, ethical implication and transparency both for a user interface and AI tools. And in this direction, while AI can help fight disinformation, there is a fine line between moderation and censorship and other kind of things. For example, overreach AI system can also infringe freedom of speech, and furthermore, the lack of transparency in AI models can often refer to black box system, where we don't know how AI make its decision. Without transparency, for example, trust in these tools could decrease. And there are some people that believe that in the future, AI tools can cause the extinction of humankind. I'm joking, but I think that both legal system and transparency can be addressed properly to fight disinformation and to go in line with technological improvements.
Thank you very much, Marco. Unfortunately, we will not have the time to answer all the questions, but there are. So I'm really kindly invited our panelists to reply to our audience. And it has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you very much. I guess we are at the beginning of it since it's the first year of our project. I would like to now give the floor to Ina, but also thank Victoria and Christina for organizing this very interactive event.
Well, dear colleagues, dear participants, I really enjoyed today's discussion because it gives a lot of incentives to think more and to work even more effectively in our project. Many thanks to both head of panels, to Sigita and to Pascaline, and to all speakers. What I would like to say in the end, it's clear that we all are living in a rapidly changing world. And the changes are on every dimension. I mean, the world is clearly more vulnerable to information manipulation. You know, Europe maybe is not very quick in responding to all challenges. However, and maybe less advanced technically compared to the United States. However, as we observed, the United States citizens are not less vulnerable to the information manipulation. What today I learned that, and what is very important to us, it seems to me, in the conclusion part, to understand that any new EU regulation and any new technical tools is not a panacea for solving very complicated problems of the world we are living today. Only a very smart combination of very different tools, including, and maybe first of all, including education system, which also should be adjusted to new challenges. Only this combination can give us the breakthrough. As to our project, I really wish us to learn from today's webinar and try to make our AI tools more user-friendly, more technically advanced, given the technical progress which are rapidly speed up every day. And thank you to all of you who attended our webinar. I hope to see you at our next event next time. Thank you very much.